Well, namastu again, and welcome to another Sunday service here at the Holy Qubtic Church of Anku Sa Ra. My name is Pastor Dr. Cleveland W. Eneas III, also known as Ka-Hun, Anku Sa Ra. As always, we like to begin by greeting our listening congregation, and now, for the first time, our viewing congregation. We encourage you to come down here to historic Main Town any Sunday at 9 a.m. for our Sunday service, or any Sunday at 12 p.m. We now have a second service until 2, or any Wednesday for our True Light Fellowship and Bible study, as we are a teaching church. Okay? And for those of you who did make it, again I say namastu, which means I bow to the divinity in you, and Nefer Baka, which simply means good morning. Today we are going to touch on a topic that I guess it's in the air, because it's something that I've been thinking about and pondering on, as well as I've had a few inquiries into today's topic, and then even as I wrote on the board, somebody explained that was the conversation that they were having just this morning. So Jonah must be in the air.
I didn't see.
I didn't see. Today's sermon is entitled Jonah in the Belly of the Whale. Jonah in the belly of the whale. Well, this story is a story that we have learned about throughout our lives. You know, you've heard this story of a man who spent 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a whale. And for many of us, maybe as children, that was sufficient. And maybe we were able to accept that somebody could live in the belly of a whale at all, much less 3 days and 3 nights. But we may have accepted it as children, and maybe it's fine to explain things like that to children. However, as we become adults, we want to understand, well, what are the realities behind this Jonah story, and was there a whale that actually swallowed this Jonah? And is it possible for a person to live in a whale? And so we're going to move through the scriptures today. In the Holy Qubtic Church, we utilize not only the King James Version of the Bible, but also the original books of the Bible, because we understand that it's necessary for our people who are utilizing the King James Version to be able to see what the original books of the Bible is actually saying. And so we're going to see that today as we move through the scriptures. So we want to start in the book of Matthew chapter 16. Matthew chapter 16. And in Matthew chapter 16, we're going to read just the first 2 verses, because this particular title, even in this King James Version, Hebrew, Greek keyword study Bible, is talking about understanding the times. Understanding the times. And we in 2016 are experiencing some different yet similar times if we stay in tune with the scriptures. You understand? And we're going to see that as we move through the scriptures today. Matthew 16, starting at verse 1, it says, the Pharisees, the Pharisees always had this, I don't even want to say love-hate relationship, a hate-hate relationship with Yahshua. And they always were questioning him and trying to figure out how they could trip him up. Right? And that's important for us to know first and foremost, because we as the Holy Qubtic Church, we encourage people to question us. And obviously Yahshua was the same way, because you always had people questioning him. And so the Pharisees, Matthew 16 verse 1, the Pharisees also with the Sadducees came and tempting, desired him that he would show them a sign from heaven. He answered and said unto them, when it is evening, ye say, it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. So we're going to go to verse 4. And verse 3, in the morning it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and lowering. So in other words, no matter what color the sky is, if the sky is red, on one day they'll say, this could be bad weather today, because the sky is red. On another day the sky is red, and they say, you know what, we don't have good weather today. Why? Because the sky is red. He goes on to say, oh, let me go back to verse 3 so we're not confused. In the morning it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and lowering. O ye hypocrites, ye can discern the face of the sky, but cannot discern the signs of the times. So you have this knowledge of looking at the skies and being able to tell the weather. They were trying to be the weatherman without the Doppler radar. You know, we used to try that, right? Some people maybe too young to know that, but they may not know Caleb. He had an antenna. And you look at the water and you could say, boy, TV can be clear tonight. TV can be clear tonight. Because y'all remember that? Who remember that? Yeah? And you knew based on the weather, hey, we can get some good reception tonight. And these Pharisees were basically not really aware of why the weather was changing. And Yahshua knew this. And he said, how are you the authority on whether the weather is going to be good or bad? But then you're not the authority on the signs of the times. You don't understand exactly what the signs of the time means. You guys are hypocrites. You really don't even understand the weather if you ask me about the signs. Because anybody who understands the weather understands solar biology, understands the dendera, understands those things that allows for cycles to come in and to go out, and understands how the seasons replicate the actual cycles within the solar system, the galaxy, and the universe. Right? So you all are hypocrites because y'all don't actually understand what you're saying. Verse 4 says, a wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign. A wicked and adulterous. So in other words, you've twisted the truth for so long. Because the word wicked, thank you. The word wicked is, in English, a word that comes from Wicca. Wicca furniture. And that Wicca furniture, they take the wood and they twist it. Yes? And that's exactly how they twist the truth. They have enough truth in there to make sure that you are going to take it in. But mixed in or twisted in with that truth are lies. Do you understand? So a wicked and adulterous generation. In other words, you have, as a generation, worshipped other than self and kind. You've gone against the principles of your own mothers and fathers. You've gone against your own blood. Because that's what adultery, when they talk about it in the Old Testament, this adultery is usually seen in marriage. Yes? And so we as a people are married to or should be at one with the 9 rights, the laws, the precepts, the commandments. And when you go against those laws, those precepts, those commandments, that is seen as fornication. That is seen as adultery. And when you start doing that, you lose a understanding of the signs of the time. So you could pretend like you know what's going on, but at the end of the day, you just front. You're just a hypocrite. You understand? How is it that you could speak to the all-knowing, all-powerful God that is everywhere, but you can't tell us why the murder rate can't come down? You can't help us to fix the economy. But we're supposed to still respect you as a leader. We're supposed to still listen to you and take your advice as a country. But all you can do is complain and tell people that they ain't listening to you. But we've listened long enough to know that you don't know the signs. Amen? So this wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given unto it but the sign of the prophet Jonah. And he left them and departed. So the only sign is the sign of the prophet Jonah. So I want us to just allow that to sink in for a second. Because what is Yahshua really saying here? He's saying that the story of Jonah being swallowed in the belly of a whale is a sign. That didn't happen. That wasn't a reality. That was a sign. That was a symbol. That was something for us to learn from. Not something for us to take literally and actually think that a man could be in the belly of a whale for 3 days and 3 nights. That doesn't make sense. Matter of fact, when we begin to investigate whales, the throat of a whale cannot swallow something as big as a man. That's why they eat plankton. So they can't even eat big fish, much less a person. You understand? This is why science and the Greco-Roman interpretation of our realities doesn't go well. Because when you start to investigate certain things, you would have to ask the question, well, what kind of whale was this? Because the whales, you understand what I'm saying? Most whales can't eat big fish. You understand? They eat plankton and small fish. And so, we moved into Matthew chapter 12 because we need to now understand what actually happened. What was this sign? What was this story all about in terms of this Jonah being swallowed up? And so, we're going to look at this same story again in another chapter, Matthew 12, right? But it's going to give us a little bit more detail. Matthew 12, let's start at verse 38, and we'll end at verse 42. Then certain of the scribes and the Pharisees answered, saying, Master, we would see a sign from you. In other words, same thing, can we get a sign from heaven? But he answered and said unto them, what? An evil and an adulterous generation, seeking after a sign. And there should be no sign, and there shall no sign be given to it, but the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. The men of Nineveh shall rise in judgment with this generation, and shall condemn it, because they repented at the preaching of Jonah. And behold, a greater than Jonah is here. The queen of the south shall rise in the judgment with this generation, and shall condemn it. For she came from the uttermost parts of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon. Who's he talking about here? a.k.a. queen of Sheba, they would say. Okay? And behold, a greater than Solomon is here. So in this particular rendition, we see where Yahshua is saying that the sign is actually just like Jonah was in the 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. So, in Matthew 12 is making reference to a whale, correct? Okay, well let's see what Jonah says. Because Yahshua was referencing what book? Jonah. Yeah? So let's go and actually look in the book of Jonah to see what the book of Jonah says about what Yahshua was talking about as an actual sign of Jonah. And this is important because what happens is we've read this story so often from the book of Matthew, but we haven't taken the opportunity to read it from the book of Jonah, right? Because that's what's being referenced. So we're going to read just a couple verses out of the first chapter. Jonah chapter 1, verses 1 through 3, and then we're going to jump down to verses 15 to 17 for the sake of time. Okay? Now the word of the Lord came unto Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry against it, for their wickedness is come up before me. But Jonah rose up to flee unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord, and went down to Joppa. And he found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare, therefore, and went down into it to go with them into Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. So let's just be clear about how this thing goes. Okay? So let's say this is Nineveh here. Okay? So he got a word. Listen, Jonah, I need you to go down there. Nineveh, we're talking to people now. Some people, they out of water. Right? So, what Jonah say? Hell with that. Right? We ain't dealing with that. Right? Jonah proceeds to march down to the coast. Jump up. And then get on a boat headed to Tarshish. Now, if you look at this on the map, it literally is opposite direction. He totally went in the opposite direction. You understand what I'm saying? He's like, yeah, I hear you, God. I hear you so good that I'm making sure I go in the exact opposite direction. Because them people crazy. Them people who you sending me to, they crazy. You understand what I'm saying? So I ain't that. Right? So Jonah break off running. And he bold now. Both sides had to do something. You just decide, man, I ain't. And today we can see how all of us will do that when we're ready. So, go to verse 15 now of chapter 1. So, they took up Jonah. Because what's happening now? Just for the sake of those who may not know the story. He's in the boat. A storm kicks up. The people in the boat are like, what is going on? Why? Did you pray today? Did you pray? Did you pray? Jonah in the corner, sleeping. Wake that bird off mine. All us done pray to our God. Did he pray to his God? Jonah, wake up, buddy. Because he's sleeping through the storm now. This brother, he's so happy in there in Nineveh. Even the storm ain't waking him up. You see what I'm saying? So eventually, what do they have to do? They have to actually cast lots. Were they casting lots as in straws? No. They were using something called the Urim and Thummim. It's spoken of in the book of Exodus. It's called, the Europeans call it ruins, throwing stones. Okay? But we have a system called the Urim and Thummim, which really is just another way of saying the true light, or the true lights. The light, Urim, right? And so they threw these stones and they realized the stones, like, that brother is the problem. You get him off the boat. You don't get him off the boat, I can't promise you the boat may sink. Because he going against the Most High. So verse 15, so they took up Jonah and cast him forth into the sea. And the sea ceased from her raging. Okay, beautiful. So, it's sad we had to lose him. You know what I'm saying? but it's calm now. So he was the problem. Yeah. Verse 16, then the man feared the Lord exceedingly and offered a sacrifice unto the Lord and made vows. So after an experience like that, they're like, wow, that's deep. You know what I'm saying? And they made an offering. Verse 17 says, now the Lord has prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah. Hold on. So this ain't a whale then. See, because whales are not fish. Whales are mammals. You see, the science things mess it up. Science is coming and mess it up. So, in Jonah, it's mentioning a fish, not a whale. A great fish. The Lord had prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. Okay? So, in Matthew, we're learning about a whale. In Jonah, we're learning about a fish. So which was it? Was it a fish or was it a whale? It was a what?
Whale fish.
Whale fishing. Okay, that's still confusing. You see, that's still confusing. Well, let's go into the language now to begin to understand what is actually being said. Because we need to appreciate what the actual Hebrew and even the Greek is saying on this so we can have a better and clearer understanding. The first thing we want to look at is the word Jonah. Now, the word Jonah, as a word, actually means dove. So this Jonah, every time you say the word Jonah, you're saying the word dove. Why is that important? When in the New Testament, when you see this dove represents what? The Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, as we say, the Holy Soul. Yes? So, what is the correlation between Jonah and this dove, or Jonah and the Holy Soul, or Jonah and the Holy Ghost, whatever people want to say it, right? There must be a correlation because the Most High is sending Jonah to Nineveh, yes? To Nineveh, spell that correctly? E. Right? And in sending him to Nineveh, right, the Most High is supposed to fulfill a mission. What mission was he fulfilling? He was fulfilling the mission of the Spirit of truth. Because that is what he was sent there for. To preach against what was actually going on there, which is the same thing that Yahshua was actually doing in his generation. Which is why Yahshua points to Jonah as the only sign that he's going to give a what? Wicked and adulterous generation. If you understand the Jonah story, then you'll understand why I'm here, is what he was saying. Right? Not me, Yahshua. Right? So this Jonah represents dove. There's another interesting biblical fact about Jonah. Jonah was the father of who? Some of y'all may know. But Jonah was the father of the Apostle Peter. Yeah. Jonah was the father of the Apostle Peter. How do we know this? Well, let's look at the book of John, chapter 1, verse 42. And he brought him to Jesus, or Yahshua. And when Yahshua beheld him, he said, Thou art Simon, the son of Jonah. Thou shalt be called Cephas, which is, by interpretation, a stone. And this Cephas, or stone, is none other than Peter. Well, some say that ain't clear enough for me, Pastor. Josephus is. Let's go to Matthew 16 and 18. Matthew chapter 16 and 18. Matthew 16. Actually, we want to start at 17 and move into 16. Matthew 16. And Yahshua answered and said unto him, Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. Now, who is this Simon Bar-Jonah? Well, let's jump back up to verse 16. Actually, let's go back to verse 13 to get a full context. When Joshua came into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? And they said, Some say that thou art John the Baptist, some Elijah, and others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. He saith unto them, But whom say ye that I am? And Simon Peter answered and said, Thou art the Christ. So who's saying this? Simon Peter. Simon Peter answered and said, Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Yahshua answered and said unto him, Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah. So Simon Peter is being called Simon Bar-Jonah. The word Bar is the word son. So Simon, son of Jonah. For flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. Then it goes on to say, And I say also unto thee, that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. So, what was he actually saying in this verse? Because he referenced that he was the son of Jonah. People say, yes, that was referencing Jesus saying that he was going to build his church on Peter. Others say, no, it actually means rock. The reality is, he was saying, I'm going to build my church on the spirit of truth. The same spirit of truth that your father Jonah had is the same spirit of truth that allowed for you to know who I am. That's what I'm going to build this church on. But if you don't understand the full story, then you think they're talking about the Catholic Church and Peter being the first pope. And if you go to the Catholic Church, they built it on a graveyard. And they'll tell you that the bones of Peter are in or underneath the Vatican. So they're saying, we built our church on Peter, on the rock. That's what they say now. I don't know, go watch Secrets of the Vatican or whatever on YouTube. Just watch it. You understand? And so the reality then is this Jonah was one who was already a part of the lineage of someone who carried with them the spirit of truth. You understand?